Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.
This is Exceptional Radio. And it's...
Damn it, I forgot to fucking stop that thing twice now. Okay, it's the 3rd of January, 2021. And finally stop writing 2020 on everything.
Yeah, fuck that year.
It was so bad we had to put the date down twice on when we write down the date to remind ourselves. 2020. It's an extra long date. It'll stand out in all of my personal filing. Anytime I search for something on the computer, I'll see that 2020, and I'll think, oh, fuck that year.
Yeah, what a horrible fucking year. Just from top to bottom, one of the worst years ever on the record.
And worse than the financial collapse of, when was that, 2008?
Yeah, much worse.
Worse
Yeah,
than
2008, it's like tame compared. 2008 was like rosy compared to 2020.
Oh, man, that's so sad.
I mean, because think about it. We had, I think that was, I think it might have been, was it avian flu by then? Or swine flu? There was like shit that was not nearly as deadly that the media was like trying to use to scare people into actually adopting clean behaviors that they ended not being able to because not enough people died apparently.
It was avian flu. It was like it killed people too quickly. The people that died, it killed really quickly, but it didn't kill that many people. There was at the beginning of COVID pandemic, there's this really, really good chart that was comparing the transmission rate of various epidemics and pandemics, and it was one of those things that I remember seeing. Like a lot of the really nasty ones, they had these big jumps, and then that's it, because they kill people too quickly. And quarantine methods are able to work, but these slow incubating, don't really show any signs for a couple of weeks.
Well, because then it's been discussed that one of the issues with the virality is the ones that are less deadly spread more because the host doesn't die.
Yeah.
So this is where the UK COVID strain is more virulent but less deadly. So it becomes even more difficult to explain this to someone who doesn't understand science when they're like, well, now less people are dying from it, so it's okay if I get it. And you get these ridiculous perspectives that are just completely disconnected from how science actually works.
You don't want to be on an airplane with somebody who has the UK more virulent strain because you're in an enclosed chamber. As a higher
on top of that, if somebody contracts COVID, it's not just the immediate symptoms that they're dealing with. There's long-term repercussions and health conditions that develop as a result of contracting the virus. And people are so used to immediate results, either for better or for worse. Like if they think they're getting sick, they want to get sick right away. And then they want to get better. It's like they're in their heads, they get sick and then they get better. Instead, it's, in this case, we have something where it's not fully characterized yet what the long-term ramifications of getting sick are. We do know that there are long-term ramifications of getting sick.
We also don't have Star Trek level science where we can create a antiviral injection or hypo spray and just to the neck, and then whatever's gone wrong with the body starts to undo itself immediately. We don't have Borg nanite technology. We don't have any of that stuff. We still have to let our body do the work. I wonder.
Yeah, and those types of people would be scared. The type of people that wouldn't understand how viruses work also would be scared to upgrade their biological machine
Yeah.
at any point. Whether I don't want to be the first iteration in any situation. I never want to be the first adopter. And that's where I'm like, those people wouldn't do it under any situation though, where I'm like, once it's tested, I'll definitely try some nanites. You know what I mean?
Once I know that I don't have a bunch of like weird polymers and pieces of metal floating around in my blood, potentially getting lodged in places I don't want them to be stuck, I'm cool. I'll be interested in that. But if it's like an Elon's brain chip, where who knows what the fuck that's gonna do to that stupid pig? Can't even do fucking polynomials.
I saw a brief infographic about swine intelligence. Apparently, they can do puzzles pretty well and make their way through mazes pretty effectively.
They have super noses. They can probably
Yes.
smell like the clean stream of air flowing on the floor of the maze.
Yeah.
I mean,
And humans use it to find truffles that they then sell for €20,000.
fucking mushroom. Fucking delicious mushroom. Bastards.
Pretty crazy.
Truffle oil is like one of those really stupid expensive, it's like lightly, it's like diluted in some other kind of oil, and then they drizzle it over something, and you look at it, you can kind of smell it, and then it comes time to, it's to determine whether the proof is in the pudding, I suppose. It's not there. It's just like, okay, I clearly have blown out my taste buds today. I can't taste this subtle, nuanced. Sometimes I hate the kind of like snack foods that exist. The ones that, especially the ones that they blow your taste buds out like within the first, before you get done with like the first chip. I feel like I've lost my sense of taste, not from like sweets or candy, even like because I like sour candies, but from like the salty foods that I've had over the course of the past week.
Yeah, it's really easy to blow out your taste buds.
Yeah.
I am very cognizant of it and try to like reset my shit if I accidentally blow it out. Like blow them out in the fast food industry, and even it doesn't even have to be fast food. Anything that's made out just overloads it with butter and sodium in a way that your taste buds get so overstimulated that then not you, but a person tends to experience that as like satiated, but in like a gratuitous way that becomes associated with a dopamine drop. And then it's like, people get stuck in this cycle of getting that dopamine drop through too much salt and never let their taste buds actually reset to where it's like, I fast pretty much every day, and intermittent fasting just gives you a chance to reset on its own, whether it's for sugar or salt. So then you can eat an apple after, 12, 16 hours of not ingesting any food. Um, and that apple's like the sweetest thing you've ever eaten. It's like sweeter than any candy you'll ever eat because your taste buds have had a chance to reset. And people eat so frequently and so much oversaturated food that they never get it. It's not only do they not get a chance to reset, they have to keep increasing the sodium to stimulate to where their new baseline is. And it's like it keeps upping your baseline to the point where people are like consuming a whole day's worth of sodium in one meal and not even realizing it because they can't taste how salty this shit is anymore. It's like a real compound process where the feeling of, oh, I don't have enough time to cook my own meals, and then I buy this food out. It like compounds into the taste buds and never getting a chance to reset, like over the course of multiple years, not even a single year. I'm wondering if some people have like ever cooked for themselves in a way where there's a significant portion of people out there that just can't cook. It's not that they don't have the aptitude, they've never had the time in their own heads or the motivation to learn how to cook. So then that becomes an excuse for eating out every fucking meal. And then when they're eating out every meal, they're consuming an excessive amount of sodium in every meal because that's how the restaurants and takeout places do it. So again, this is where I'm like, there's a lot of Americans, I want to say probably at least 50% of Americans that have consumed takeout food or carry out food for a significant, if not their entire lives, that then have never actually had a chance to let their sodium levels on their taste buds get actual like a normal baseline.
Man, that that explains why I see people like dousing Chinese food with soy sauce on some level.
Bro.
And you're only supposed to like give it a few splashes so you have a couple of spots that have some extra
I don't even
flavor.
use it. It's always so flavored. I don't even, because they usually fry it in there or like use it in the recipe at some point. So I'm like, I don't need to add any extra.
Sure. But if you're gonna use it, you're really just supposed to like do a couple drops somewhere
Right.
on the plate, so you have like a few places that get a little extra flavor. You're not even supposed to stir it in. You're supposed to just let that be where it is. Then you have like uh, a variable flavor palette in front of you. But I see people who will just load their rice up with soy sauce, or it's like start loading up the dish. It's like, holy shit, what kind of sodium intake do you need?
Well, and I'm noticing food that's actually made in the native recipes, like whether it's Chinese or Mexican, that doesn't use an excessive amount of sodium or oil, like that shit, you'll burn it off almost immediately. If you don't add anything extra, it's gonna actually it's gonna burn through your system because they don't put any excess shit in there that gets stuck in your intestine or stuck in your blood or whatever that causes a backup. And I think this is where it's like all calories are not equal in that the chemical composition causes the calories to do different things and get processed at different rates. Whereas calories coming from Mexican or Chinese food cooked in the actual recipe in line with the native recipe is not going to get stuck in your body the same way as the Americanized down oil and sodium recipe.
When over the summer when I briefly experimented with African seasoning packets and grilling meats with basically like really complex pepper and ginger combinations. There's no salt in those seasoning packets, and the instructions said nothing about adding salt. They didn't even like call for using oil. They're just like rub this on the meat and then throw it on the grill. You could skewer it.
Yeah, in my experience with certain meats in the cast iron skillet, all it requires really to help tenderize is a kind of like a citrus
You're using acid to start cooking it.
marinade. Yeah. And maybe a little bit of garlic.
Beef ceviche.
Right. But never any additional salty marinades of any kind on these meats that you just are supposed to put in the cast iron skillet and sear on either side and then let it cook through to taste, essentially.
I wonder when the push for salt in the diet really started happening.
Well, I'm sure it had to do with some sort of industry.
It was currency back in the
Success.
Roman days.
Right, but in the same way, somebody made a post about it where, the push for bacon and everything was due to a meat industry excess. So they started advertising bacon, putting it in shows and commercials everywhere, and it wasn't an organic growth in people like bacon. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, the bacon excess has.
He brings home the bacon was a marketing campaign to drive up confidence in the nuclear family, the autonomous family, to have individuals who could bring home meat. There were bacon racks that people would put up in their kitchens, kind of like a towel rack where people would hang their bacon. It's just real. Like they would hang bacon out in their kitchen, just hanging out. Nobody does that shit anymore.
Yeah, not at all. Well, and at the same time, it's it's weird to be in a spot where we are able to have meat grown from seed, essentially, when they're using pea proteins, not urine, PEA proteins to make the fake meat. And it's not, there's petri grown meat, which is a completely different thing, which is actually real meat protein,
properly aligned.
What's up?
My understanding is in a petri dish they can grow meat into grain that actually functions as muscle.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. And in the process, there's no dead animal, and that's the benefit of it. So it's crazy to be at that point, but also have a group of people who are so adamantly against technology that they would rather an animal die to consume meat and also not shift their diet to more, if only vegetable. Like the notion that animals are subject to being consumed for the sake of our subsistence when we do not need to do that anymore as a species is an example of imperialist colonialism disguised as tradition that is 100% colonial in the notion that the only reason bison are not roaming anymore is because colonialism intentionally destroyed them as a means or as a point of significance for the natives. It was not about necessity. It was about destroying the natives' connection to the earth and then destroying something that they held in reverence. In the same way, you get fucking the obsession with hamburgers and meat. That's not about meat. It's about shoving that in Indian people's faces. You may not think so, but it's about shoving it in Indian people's faces from the British Empire, trying to show them, oh, that cow you hold, you so revere, we're going to fucking eat it every goddamn day. Oh, I could eat broccoli. I could eat spinach. I'm going to eat your sacred fucking cow so you know you're lower than us. That's what that shit's about. And Americans don't want to acknowledge it because they also don't want to acknowledge that they're just British light. And American imperialism is just a light version of British imperialism. It's just a light version. It's not, and the funny thing is, well, we're more, Americans will like get so confrontational that if you say it's a light version. Like, no, we're more imperialist than Britain, and they'll start defending like how they're more imperialist, and you're like, oh damn, you didn't even see what happened because the Americans are that up their own asses. So it's this like machismo thing where you can literally convince an American to start defending how imperialist an American is compared to Britain because they can't help themselves. They just fucking can't help themselves.
So are you caught up on Discovery?
Not quite. I'm like 3 episodes behind. I think 2 episodes behind now. We
I
just got to when the book and his brother were fighting. Yeah, we're sipping Discovery like a fine wine.
okay.
I don't rush through shit like that.
Okay.
And again, it's like same thing with Cobra Kai. Like I know some people have already seen the entire shit. Like, nah, I'm gonna watch that shit over a few weeks and savor it because new content is hard to come by. And it's like, you know,
No, it's true. No, I watched the first episode like 3 times because I wanted to make sure because I wasn't really paying attention. I was playing a video game, and so it was just on. So I just kept watching it over because I kept missing parts. I was like, "What the fuck? What do I even watch?" But yeah, the first episode of Cobra Kai, like they come out pretty hard and they start tuning up the emotional heartstrings like really. I can tell that it's gonna be an interesting season.
Yeah.
Like they got it set up pretty well.
Well, that ending of season 2 was you know, it's like the hero's journey.
Yeah.
You have to have something to overcome, and that's kind of where also when you get your power, you have to get it taken away.
Yeah.
To actually prove that it's not the power that makes you a hero. So I see what they're doing, but it's because they're following the hero's journey really well, but also showing that like everybody goes through a hero's journey if you just follow them at the right time, and they can still become a villain. And it's like you have to make sure that you stay on that path. That's one of the reasons Cobra Kai is so great because Danny almost fell off the path, you know, and they showed it. They showed like that's the best part of putting it in the perspective of the villain from the original series is then you start to be like, oh shit, everybody can be a villain at one point. That everybody can be a villain to somebody and a hero in their own head.
Yeah, it's a lot of what you just described is in the sitcom How I Met Your Mother. The Barney character, he's what's his name? Doogie Howser.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris. He at one point he's talking about the Karate Kid, and to him it's Johnny Lawrence. He was the Karate Kid, not LaRusso. And so I don't know if he's what the origin of that variation of the theme actually is, but that's where I'm familiar with it. That's the first time I'd ever even considered it, and so I
think Ralph Macchio had wanted to do it for a long time. To be honest, I think Ralph Macchio has had the Cobra Kai idea for a long time, supposedly.
Okay. Well, that's also cool, but
then I think in that context, I think it makes sense because even that character is funny because Neil Patrick Harris is gay, and having him play the role of like a hypersexualized, like hetero male, to then be like, oh, this is why I saw the bully as the hero. It kind of has this like meta layer of, yeah, Neil Patrick Harris had to put on this like pretend role and pretend to be a straight person, and like he was wearing a mask for his like a significant portion of his life to the point where he was also doing it to subvert this notion of what that hyper masculine. Because remember when he was in like the Harold and Kumar, I think it was film?
Oh yeah, he couldn't get his fill at the brothel.
Yeah, so it's like it's basically the same thing, but he's like subverting that to be like, oh, you guys worship this like hyper masculine womanizer. Guess what? It was an act. He likes men. Like, don't worship that shit. So it's this element of pulling, it's a bait and switch, which needed to happen. But also, I think that is some shit where you have to kind of, the system is not going to allow you to pull the rug out from underneath it. So you have to get in a position where it's like, oh, he went from Doogie Howser to Barry to like subvert the notion of what everybody thinks is like really masculine, because it's most of it's a fucking lie. Like that shit is like a lie. Like that Barry character
Or Barney.
in real life, or Barney, the person that does that is lying about like 90% of their exploits. That person doesn't exist, and then the one that's close doesn't talk about it or flaunt it the way that Barney does, because then that's like the Lenny Kravitz type people where you're like, you ever see Lenny Kravitz talking about how many women he slept with? No, of course not. Like, you know what I mean? This shit is just fucking stupid. Of course, Lenny Kravitz ain't gonna be in the public talking about, oh, this one time. That's what that whole Wilt Chamberlain shit was suspect to me, because I'm like, you're saying you slept with 24,000 women. Why though, bro? Like, if you did that, why put that out there? You're flexing way too hard on some shit where it's like, I don't doubt that he had a lot of sex. It's just more so like, why do you need to tell people? Why do you feel the need to tell people you had sex with 24,000 women, Wilt Chamberlain?
Wilt Chamberlain was in a competition with the entire band of AC/DC for who could become treated for syphilis the most.
Right. Yeah. And same shit with Gene Simmons, 6,000 women. Fuck out of here, you liar. Gene Simmons, that his dick didn't work on half those. And that's where he's like, oh yeah, like you were with maybe that many women, but I guarantee his dick didn't work half the time. Guarantee it. I fucking guarantee it. Because then that's where that shit, like the Hugh Hefners and, oh, I have a woman every day of the week. Well, your dick's not working fucking 7 out of 7 days. So what's the point? Like, old man, come on, fucking liar.
I think that's why they called him Wilt.
Wilt. Oh man. Yeah, that whole thing flipped. Yeah, that whole people who used to be impressed by Wilt Chamberlain, that shit's not, we are not those same people. We're calling your bullshit, Wilt Chamberlain. You fucking liar. You fucking liar.
I mean, like, even at some point, there's like just the raw exposure puts that kind of person in a really dangerous position where they'll have had so many partners that in turn they will have been exposed to however many other people those people have also slept with at some point. Like, because I'm assuming that happened like before the era that where condoms were used widely. Like,
yeah,
that was all like pre-AIDS.
Dick fell off fucking 4,000 women in. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have sex with that many people and not have your dick fall off from fucking some unknown disease that you activated. There's no way. In the 70s, come on, man. 60s and fuck out of here.
Well, there's like I saw this generational chart, and it showed how many people it takes per generation to lead to like one person. And I think it said something like by the 20th generation, there are like over 1 million humans that have existed that had to exist for you to exist, something like that. And I thought about that for a little bit. It's like, man, is that how it works with like somebody who, if like two people have had like 20 partners, is that also how it works? Have they like had like that many what is it, logarithmic exposure?
I think it also depends on the renewal of the cells, and also depends on whether or not they're using certain types of prophylactics.
I mean, like people.
Yeah, that much sex is not using any prophylactic.
Yeah, like people in the 70s who were like going for the you know going for the mountaintop. I don't think that they were. I don't think anyone cared about that shit. That stuff didn't exist to them. They could just like wash their dick off with some soap and it'd be okay.
They had like key parties and shit. Like those people are not worried about contracting anything in the moment. They're all about free love and enjoying the moment. That's like, yeah, no, I do not imagine on any planet that group intersects with people who use protection.
That's
It
like
just
that's the Sodom and Gomorrah crowd.
right, exactly. They would fucking angel like
They were fucking rocks. They were worshiping flaming piles of shit.
yeah. Yeah, no, and that's kind of where, yeah, no, that there's a whole group of people that engage in extremely risky behaviors that then become a danger to everyone else who is not trying to engage in those behaviors by proxy, because then they lie about engaging in those behaviors one way or another. Yeah.
That sounds very contemporary.
I mean, just that, like, that amount of time. I don't think people used to actually think about the things that they were told, because I'm saying if there's 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year, how much of that time is spent courting and having sex with to get to 24,000? Because then that's where I'm just like, it's just mathematically, like, you got to eat to maintain all that fucking. Like, come on, man. It just doesn't work out in a way that I just don't think people were willing to like, somebody who's not a professional athlete hears Wilt Chamberlain in the 80s or 70s or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, Wilt Chamberlain says it must be true. Whereas now, if a celebrity says anything, half the people are going to agree with them, but the other half of people are going to disagree with them just because that celebrity said something. So there's not this like blind acceptance of what celebrities say anymore. There was definitely a period where if you were a celebrity, you were basically an emissary from God that would never ever do anything wrong or deceive the public. And that's how people
20,000 is the number.
yeah. Bullshit.
20,000.
Bullshit. Bullshit, Wilt Chamberlain.
Let's see, how does this?
That's some efficient living.
And I mean, again, where's he should have his own tribe by now. If he had had sex with 20,000 women, there's no way he's not at least accidentally impregnating 1,000 of them. There should be a tribe of Chamberlains that were only sired by Wilt Chamberlain by now that have already bred because they're so prolific at breeding.
So
that's how that shit's supposed to work.
he would have had to see if he just started at the age of 15 and then up to the age of 55, he would have had 40 years to sleep with 20,000 women or 500 different women a year. 1.4 women a day.
Right, no, bro, come on. Fucking liar. Fucking liar. Goddamn liar. That's what that is. That's a lie. And it takes this long for him to, I mean, I don't know if other people have been calling him a liar, but I haven't really heard anybody like explicitly call this lie out. This is one of the hugest lies that's been perpetuated by fucking Hollywood, besides Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears' relationship.
So
this is one of the biggest.
To make the math a little bit easier, if it's 1.5 women per day, it can be accomplished in 37 years. 18 to 55.
He's such a liar. Such a liar.
At what point? At what point did Will make that assertion?
1991.
How old was he when he said that?
Um,
Do we know?
uh,
Must have been in his 60s, 50s or 60s.
I don't have his age
Oh, okay.
pulled
He
up.
was- yeah.
I mean, I don't know what year he's born in.
Okay, so he was born in 1936.
45. No, 55. Wait. Yeah, 55.
55. So yeah, so he had been like banging 1.5 women a day right up till the end. Well, no, he died in 1999. Right up to the moment that he made that claim. How does that even work? That's like 16 hours per woman. That's so fucked up. Now we're mathing this shit. We need to stop. We need to find something else to talk about. So, anyways, like a year and a half ago, there was a really nasty windstorm, and it broke a branch off of one of my trees in the right on my driveway to block the road. And so I called up a buddy of mine to come and you know haul it away. And he shows up and he's like, "Hey, is this yours?" I was like, "It is." And he's pointing at this giant roll of cardboard that you know probably fell off the back of a truck. And I looked at it and I said, "Well, it is now." And so I was holding on to this thing for like a year and a half, thinking like, "What am I gonna do with this giant roll of cardboard?" And so last night we took it and uncoiled it and glued it into a large tube, and it's going to be turned into a new dog bed for Bruce.
Crafts for the win, repurposing.
Yeah, something like that. I think there's a cat that wants in. 1 second, gentlemen.
Yeah. Um, so I don't know if you've seen anything in crypto lately, but it's funny to see the renewed media interest in Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're talking about Bitcoin going over, what was it, 36,000 or something like that. And then there's Dogecoin. It was just because some adult film star started talking about it, it ended up going up by like a factor of 125,000% or something. Not 125,000, 125,000%. Yeah, exactly.
That's unbelievable growth.
It's
yes, it's exponential, completely rational, logical. It wasn't manufactured.
Yeah, man, and that's where it's funny to me to see the media slowly change its narrative about the way they've been approaching it when it hits these certain points, and it's like if they had been more even keeled about how they approached it in the first place, it'd be less necessary for them to only talk about it when there's these price movements. And I think the biggest issue is that the people who are talking about this stuff again don't understand what's actually happening, and they only see money, and that's the only thing that actually appeals to them about anything like this. So it's again interesting to see when the media is getting hyped about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Yeah, like I'm I'm always amused by it because I've been watching everything for years and participating in various capacities, and it's weird to see how it's only price movement that will get some people's attention. And when that happens, that makes me not want to deal with the people that are only interested in price movement, because the least interesting thing about the technology.
Well, they're only in
Um,
it for the gambling.
right, yeah, but they don't want to call it gambling.
Yeah, they want to pretend they're backing technology, but
Yeah.
you know, I dare like 99%, even narrower, but top 0.01% of the people that are interested in crypto to actually explain how the algorithm for the specific technology that they think that they are supporting works. Because I don't think that very many people fully understand, even on a basic level, you know, how does XRP work, or how does Bitcoin work, or how does Monero work? How do any of these things work? It's you got to read a lot to understand it, and I'm not talking about just like a simple flow chart, but I still read a lot of like evangelizing of technology that's just it's a brilliant sales pitch. What it boils down to is a lot. There's a lot of really incredible sales pitches. I think Ethereum has the most like like awe-inspiring sales pitch, and then it's been piggybacked enough times that it's just like a template for how do you get people really interested in something that doesn't really. Well, Ethereum's actually pretty cool, but it gets abused. They all get abused. Like I read about a guy who had to spend some like five-figure sum in gas just to complete a transaction.
He didn't have to. He accidentally did.
Oh, it was accidental. Okay.
Yeah. That's the problem, though, is you can accidentally do shit like that, where this is the issue with becoming your own bank. If you're not paying attention, you can end up accidentally paying more
What was it like?
in gas fees than your transaction is.
I think it was something dumb like $94,000.
Yeah, it was something stupid like that. Because the issue is you can send millions of dollars for less than, probably $100,
Depending on how much fuel.
depending on how long you want it to take.
Yeah, like depending on how much gas is in the available at that moment,
Yeah.
it might not be that much, and it might be more.
Yep. But this is also, there's other technologies. So it's really weird because people are an unpredictable part of the equation, but certain parts of their behaviors are extremely predictable. And one of those extremely predictable behaviors is ignoring technology. There's going to be a large group of people that are always going to try to ignore shit. And what that means is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have been around for longer than 10 years, but the most popular one is 10 years old in the mainstream's mind. So
It's
now that we're
finally
hitting
maturing.
right, exactly, in their heads. So then they start taking it seriously. So then there's this second wave of movement towards it by a population that's been holding off, but the space has already moved on beyond that technology, but those people are so far behind that they still have a learning curve to catch up. Yeah. So it's not that the blockchain technology that has existed for the last 10 years becomes irrelevant because it's been something new has been invented. It's just a matter of that new thing that's been invented, the people that will need to use it are just now getting to the thing that was invented 10 years ago because they're hard-headed and they don't want to fucking learn anything new. So there's this hard-head learning curve that prevents new technology from actually being deployed as to why there's still about a 10-year window, maybe shorter. It may be more like 5 to 7, but there's still like a 5 to 7 year window when we're still using 10-year-old it'll eventually be 15-year-old blockchain technology in light of newer solutions that are proven, but people just aren't educated enough to know the difference. So, and that window is dangerous.
How long ago was it that Charlie Lee left Litecoin and got on board Monero? It was like 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think about 2017.
Yeah. So in 2017, the lead developer of Litecoin left the project, and here we are. Occasionally I still read someone, you know, going to bat for Litecoin. People are still using it. Its value still fluctuates. It hasn't been changed like fundamentally for a while now, actually, but it really hasn't had any attention from its creator in 3 years. That's like 2 lifetimes in computing. Eh, I don't know. Like it seems, I think that there's a lot of room for this whole established space to linger around for a while, even after there's no attention paid to it, after it's just kind of a music box that everyone gets to wind up and let unwind and watch it do its little thing, its little dance. At least until the mining is completely done because it's too difficult, or
Oh,
until the computing power is too much and well,
here's the thing: you're looking at only one side of
yeah, I know.
mining. Mining is necessary to mine new ones, but it's also necessary for transactions. So they're never going, as long as the price stays above a certain point, it's always going to be valuable to mine. It's
Yeah.
not always going to be valuable to buy. And this is what people are conflating, is like mining is not profitable when the price point is lower than the cost of electricity.
Yeah.
As long as the price point stays above the cost of electricity, mining is perpetually necessary for certain types of blockchains, which is also a problem because they need power when they're not doing anything. And this is where the new solutions are going to come in and be green solutions, but people are so far behind that they conceptually don't even understand the need for a green blockchain because they don't understand blockchains yet.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where, this is why, again, that adoption cycle, it's like we're 5 to 7 years off from adopting energy efficient blockchains because regular people have been so hard headed about adopting energy inefficient blockchains. And the blockchains persisted and they didn't go away. So now they're going to be forced to acknowledge them and forced to look at them, even though they don't want to. And reluctantly, they're going to learn about blockchains and they're still going to be behind on the energy efficient blockchains because they're not going to want to learn about it. And it's this perpetual cycle of, again, not being allowed to not learning anything new by society, saying it's okay because you're a professional in something. It's a fucking compulsion.
Well, then we get blockchain brokers. That's
But again, the entire premise of the blockchain space is that everyone's capable of doing their own thing. So then if it just becomes a set of blockchain brokers doing everything for everyone, it just re-centralizes into blockchain managed banks.
Yeah.
And it's just the same cycle.
That's
and
the
then
way,
people,
I think that's what's going to end up. I think that's what will
I
end
mean,
up
that's how it's
happening.
playing out now.
Yeah.
But again, it's this notion of, here's the thing. The worker will always be told that liberation is a dream. They will never be offered a viable pathway out of being the downtrodden worker. This is the same with the plebe lower class that is not, they're not necessarily doing blue collar work, but they're consuming to prop up the elites.
Someday, citizen, you too can own a building.
Exactly. That dream to be part of the 1% elite is how
You can possess capital.
They keep people following this notion that someday you too can transcend, because they'll pull people ever so often out of the fields and put them in the house and say, guess what? If you work hard enough, you can be in the house with us, and then never actually let you in the house. This lie has been perpetuated for so long, but people want to believe it because their parents believed it, because their grandparents and great grandparents before them believed it. So they want to keep the lie going. And that's why you have this notion of, oh, capitalism over any other system, because that's part of keeping people in the downtrodden working class. At the same time, there will become ever so often technologies emerge that could liberate the working class if the working class adopted them, but they are often dissuaded from doing so by the elites in the form of planted Luddites that are not actual Luddites, but they're paid to create and sow dissent towards adopting a new technology that will disrupt the old paradigm's power structure. So this happens with newspapers. This happens with the internet. This happens with blockchains. This happens with all these different technologies. It's not just blockchain. There's been multiple technologies that have emerged. The internet was originally meant to be decentralized, but then internet service providers emerged and became our access points, and they took care of all the port forwarding and all the other shit for us. So you just have to download an app. You just have to take this CD-ROM from America Online. You would just pay us per minute. You just pay. You could actually dial into these boards yourself. You don't actually need us, but we make it easy for you. So we'll just charge you a little minute access fee, and you'll never know because, oh wait, your kid used it for 1,000 minutes. Oh, sorry, you still owe it. You actually owe us $1,000 now. Oh, your kid used this cell phone. Now you owe us $12,000 because your kid used a cell phone at a time in history when minutes on a cell phone used to cost way more than using a landline. And there's all these points in history where new technologies emerge that only the rich are allowed to use, that poor normal people are then shown but not allowed to actually have access to, because that would create a power imbalance back to the poor people and to the downtrodden. And this is where new technologies are perpetually used against the people that they could eventually help in a way that is being done again with Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and people just fall right for it. They embrace the ignorance and embrace the lack of need to learn new things in their head because it's easier. And this is kind of where on the other side I'm like, I don't really care about people that don't want to learn new shit because they're embracing the ease of paying for that. Yeah, they're paying for their own shackles effectively. And it's a mental trick that you have to pull yourself out of, that they don't want to, because it's actually easier to stay in those shackles because some sort of there's some semblance of normalcy with those shackles. And those people rather have a semblance of normalcy than acknowledge that we live in a chaotic universe that they have no control over, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, I see the cries for normalcy uh, all throughout the pandemic, and it reminded me of something that something that I heard repeated during the 2016 presidential campaign was, "Let's get back to business and let's get back to normal." And they sound really similar to me. Let's make America great. It's a strange kind of marketing. It's not propaganda. It's like a really strange kind of marketing, a branding that it's comfortable. It's like a warm
What is it?
blanket.
Yeah.
It's grandma's chicken soup. It's a bowl of macaroni and cheese. It's French toast. It's all of those things. It just makes people think, oh yeah, if we just start doing things the way that we did, go get our lives back to normal, everything will be okay.
A lack of adaptability.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the easiest parts about it is it ends up putting the responsibility on a fictional. Oh, there's it's not really it's hard to describe because it's both there and it's not there. There's a social psyche and a social consciousness that exists that carries the moral compass for our group or our tribe as Americans, but it's not actually real. It's a what um I forget the name of the writer, but it's imagined nations, in that the notion of an actual nation is in our minds. Um, oh, Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities. Our communities exist in our minds, and the nation is especially good at establishing uh, connections that usurp even our familial connections. So our sense of responsibility and onus to the nation actually usurps our connection to the family. Don't believe me? You remember Dare and how a bunch of kids were ended up reporting their fucking parents to the police because Dare convinced them that any drug use is bad. So even the notion of illegal drug use starts to usurp a citizen's onus to turning in their own fucking parent to the state because the state has convinced them that we'll take care of you. If you see your parent doing drugs, just if you see something, say something. Just let us know. We'll take you in. We'll put you in our system. But your parent is the bad one. They're the bad one, and that's what our system is really good at doing. Um, but this is also, nation states have been doing this over thousands of years and creating that
I
imagined
remember the Dare
community.
program. They made like that one section of health class into like a competitive, like if you can get the most points, we'll give you a coffee cup. We'll give
Yep.
you a sticker. You might get a T-shirt with Dare on it. Here, we'll give you this
Teaching
Dare
kids to be
wallet. Yeah, exactly. Here's a Dare pencil. That way we can identify you.
but that that's the Puritan part of the identity. The Quaker Oats, you see that shit in your um,
I like oatmeal.
but again, that whole notion of having a cereal uh dedicated to preventing
Diabetes.
boys from touching themselves.
Oh,
No. Cornflakes. I don't know if you didn't
it was
realize
it was
this.
cornflakes.
Yeah, cornflakes
Yeah.
was created to prevent boys from having taste sensations that inspired them to deviant thoughts. That's literally why cornflakes were created.
Dude, Kellogg was a fucking crackpot. That guy was like electrocuting
Sounds
himself.
fake.
He,
It
he
sounds made up. It
no, I
sounds
mean it's like he was crazy. He would make decisions about his meal based upon his first bowel movement of the morning. He would like measure them, like weigh them out against previous bowel movements. He had a collection of fucking jars of fucking turds. The dude was a complete nut. He would electrocute people at his fucking sanitarium. Um, yeah,
Wouldn't you, like douse them with cold water, ice water, like give them ice water baths and stuff too.
yeah, make him do like really absurd shit, like polar bear challenge. Then go run inside and get electrocuted in a sauna, and then go run outside polar bear challenge, and then do it a bunch more. People paid money to do this. They paid money to be tortured by some crackpot. It was actually a terrible movie, Road to Wellville, where Anthony Hopkins portrays Mr. Kellogg. It has its moments, but it's not a very good movie. But they do try to emphasize like a diversity of the crazy crackpot shit that he was responsible for. I think he had other cereals. I can't
I
remember.
guess that was the start of his career as portraying unhinged medical professionals.
I think Silence of the Lambs was before that.
Oh, okay.
No, no, Hannibal Lecter and William Kellogg, something Kellogg, whatever Kellogg. They're not the same. He's a different kind of crazy person.
Anthony Hopkins,
Cornflakes.
one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah, man.
You ever see the movie Meet Joe Black?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's the Death Takes a Holiday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Hopkins gives this often. It turned into a meme, I think, where he's talking about. He's talking about something. It's all heartfelt, makes people cry, stuff like that.
Death chose to hang out with a billionaire.
Well, of course. If you were deaf, who would you rather hang out with? Just some random dude on the street, or the guy who's got enough money to fly everywhere in a jet star? I wonder how. I wonder how much the Trump era memorabilia is going to appreciate, like those $100 coins from White House gift shop.
I had no idea those existed.
Oh man, apparently there's a website called WhiteHouseGiftShop.com that's been releasing these like $100 coins.
Legal tender?
I doubt it. I think they're all collector coins.
Oh.
That's amazing. Not legal tender. Oh my god.
I think they're just collectors. That's it. I think it's like people are buying these like gold plated pieces of, nickel or something, maybe copper or steel. Who cares what they are? I remember over the course of the past several years seeing a different one appear for every random thing that, I think there was one when they killed that Iranian general. There was another when he sent the SEALs in, even though that was a failure. Um, did another one when he met Kim Jong Un.
A commemorative plate.
Yeah, these are like little commemorative coins. They're not quite plates.
Surprised they don't have plates.
Oh, that generation is like too old to eat on plates. They don't care about plates. They don't know where their slippers are. So no, we're at the commemorative coin generation, I think. Somehow the commemorative stamp generation just got skipped over entirely. Or are they even older than the
A
plate
stamp with a
generation?
$100 coin.
Is the stamp collector generation older than the plate collector?
I don't think so. I think the plate collectors are slightly older. I think that's like a few hundred years old, actually, from the British,
Yeah.
from romanticizing Chinese wares.
Which
That's
they
why they called
likely
it China.
which they likely stole from Chinese ports.
Right, exactly.
Bastards.
Oh, this was Chinese plate.
That's that fine china.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, porcelain. It's tough as hell. A man-made stone. Stoneware's pretty cool like that. Glaze is pretty crazy stuff too. I've had like ceramic dishes break, and then I've subsequently cut myself with the glazed edge. And it's like the sharpest fucking glass metal knife. It's like a glass or a silicate metal matrix that creates those colors and that textured surface or that smooth surface. but it's sharp, like really cuts you bad, laceration sharp. I don't recommend that anyone go out and try that, obviously, but and you don't have to take my word for it. But when I was a Boy Scout at a Boy Scout camp, we were doing this like flint napping merit badge where we had to take a piece of flint and like make something. Everyone wanted to try to make an axe head, but nobody was skilled enough to do it. So most people made like a small knife or arrowheads or a single arrowhead in some cases. Um, that was a really difficult thing to actually accomplish. Um, I remember when I tried it, I didn't have the touch, and I just remember like beating this thing down flake by flake until it was practically nothing. Sharp as hell though. It was really sharp. Easily could have like cut through any of the clothing I was wearing. Maybe not leather, but maybe leather if I was willing to like work at it.
Yeah, leather's pretty resilient until it's like a super sharp blade.
Yeah. My hat's off to anyone who can like make a arrowhead or a knife edge or a hatchet, any kind of blade with flint. That's some serious shit. That's not just like something that you learn to do. There's like a touch to it. They're like sitting there like tapping on a piece of flint and feeling all the fissures inside of it. That's some like savant style arrowhead manufacturing.
They portrayed something like that in the movie. I think it was like The Hunted with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones.
So that's actually First Blood.
Uh,
That's the story that was adapted by Stallone for Rambo.
oh,
So makes it a little more interesting.
it does.
But they updated that the movie itself for what call it? I think it's to the time frame of like the Bosnian Serbian conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had a man. That was like the knife fight where Tommy Lee Jones redeemed himself from getting slain by Steven Seagal.
Yes. And Under Siege, right?
Yeah. He held his own with against Steven Seagal for quite a while, and then that knife
Yeah.
just stabbed him in the top of the head. He was a really good bad guy in that movie. I'm used to seeing him being like a good guy, but
He played Unhinged very well
oh yeah, he was great.
with Gary Busey as well.
Gary Busey
Like
was
him and Gary Busey acting completely
unhinged
unhinged
together
with each other.
on a destroyer.
Well, Gary Busey's not acting though.
Yeah, I know.
No, he's not.
And that's kind of where I think trying to be on Gary Busey's level is compelling to other people.
If you put Gary Busey and Nick Nolte, we need a third person in the room to cause space and time to collapse in on itself from the high unhinged levels, but I can't think of who that is.
Sam Kinison.
Sam Kinison, drunk Nick Nolte, and Gary Busey together could collapse space time.
There'd be so much yelling. It would
Oh my
just
god.
fucking everything to like collapse. Like
It, if they could be one person, it would be like they would have turned Super Saiyan.
Yeah, they have like a fusion thing that they do.
Oh man. Yeah, I never really liked Gary Busey or not Gary Busey. What's his name?
Sam
Sam
Kinison.
Kinison stuff. Gary Busey, his he's obviously not a comedian, but his shtick is, I mean, again, it's not a shtick, but his ability to uh, redirect his brain damage into acting roles is that's commendable. But that's also where again that whole over the top eccentric stuff has always been kind of weird to me. I never really, it's not necessarily been my type of comedy. You guys remember Carrot Top had a movie?
Wait, what?
I think I vaguely remember seeing a preview
Carrot
for it.
Top?
I don't think
Carrot
I
Top
actually saw the
had a
movie.
movie?
Yeah, it may be more than one. I know I've only seen at least I've only seen one, and I think I saw it on HBO or some shit. It's basically they tried to take his stand up act and put it into a movie where you see, oh my god, the early '90s they tried anything for a movie. It's like, oh, let's take every character from SNL and turn it into a movie. It's Pat, let's make a movie.
Ugh, that was
World,
terrible.
let's make a movie.
You know, Carrot Top at one point like dropped out of the public eye and then returned, and he was all like muscle bound and jacked.
Yeah. But he used like synthol and had a bunch of
Probably.
fucking plastic surgery and shit.
Yeah, his
And it's
face
like,
was all crazier looking. He
yeah.
looked like Noid from those early Domino's commercials.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
and part of it is, yeah, he definitely lifted weights, but he also definitely got a bunch of plastic surgery and synthol injection. So there is this weird you don't want to see people have their body modified because they gave into body shaming. Um, but because he went so hard in that direction, I think then it becomes a teachable moment for people where you can't let yourself become a modification based on the society's current aesthetic uh, preferences, because then those aesthetic preferences are going to go out of style at some point, and then the modifications are going to be either stuck or you're going to have to get more modifications to undo them. And I think that type of semi-permanent body modification for style it's way different than getting a piercing. Piercings close up as long as you don't get them below a certain point. Even the ones that get stretched, people if they stretch their earlobes and then they unstretch them properly, they can end up still having those things close up. That's far less permanent than plastic surgery or a lot of these other modifications that
Yeah,
people
how
are
do
doing
you
to their body.
untuck a chin?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because they're like filing down their bones and shit in a
Yeah,
lot of cases.
rhinoplasty is like actually really well early. Maybe I don't know how they do it right now, but the videos that I've seen from 5 to 10 years ago, they were still like using a hammer and a chisel.
Yeah, I think they still are. Honestly, I
Oh
don't think
God!
because you're dealing with those areas. You have to just use things that are going to chip and reshape bones. So it can't be it can't be a soft process.
Heard a story. I think it was even broadcast in the news maybe like 10 years back about this guy who got married, and when his child was born in that relationship, he he found out, or he was suspicious that his wife had gotten a lot of plastic surgery because his child wasn't as aesthetically pleasing to him as he expected it to be based off of the looks of his partner.
Yeah.
I think he ended up like divorcing her or something after he got photos of what she looked like before her plastic surgery.
I think he won. I think he sued her and also won the lawsuit. If my memory serves correct, because he framed it as being deceived, and he won, because that whole, you know, she effectively portrayed herself as someone she wasn't and did not tell him. So that was I think it was in China, if I'm not mistaken. It's either in China or Korea. But I don't think it was America. Yeah,
Well,
but that was one of those issues where again, it brought a whole moral dilemma that didn't used to exist into question. Where um,
does
again,
that? I mean, are we closing in on a point where highly modified people need to announce it and let it be known, like, oh, by the way, this isn't what I actually look like, or is it going to be
Have a card in their wallet.
get a stamp on their driver's license?
Uh-huh.
Their phone, when their phone calls come in, there's just like an extra, like a blue dot or a red dot or a purple dot or some colored dot somewhere on the screen to let you know that they're modified. Like a one that pulses between red and green. That lets you know you're talking to a cyborg.
Hmm.
I guess, and obviously, it's a moral dilemma for a reason. Um,
Yeah.
but it definitely, because on the other, this gets back to that whole notion of what qualifies as deception and what then qualifies as something that is intentionally deceptive to distort someone's opinion about something. Um, and I do think that's an interesting discussion, but it's not something that obviously you can come down on a final answer on, because it's a moral quandary for a reason. But I think people are predisposed to try to make final answers. Like, is that your final answer? Like, no, of course not. There's something that could change.
Why?
Changing all the time.
Yeah. Why do answers? Why does it have? Why does everything demand a resolute and final?
Here, I'll give you a reason. So let's say,
I mean,
because
other
this,
than are the lights off? Is the gas off? Is the
no,
stove
no, no,
off?
no,
Like
no.
I
Here,
can.
I'm going to present a moral dilemma that's actually based on real life. This happened in real life. Someone is a white person. They get a chemical treatment to turn their skin brown. They get a chemical treatment to turn their hair curly and start passing themselves off as black. Does that person have an ethical responsibility to then present that they are actually white? Because this has happened in real life.
Oh yeah, the Rachel Dozel.
No,
No?
no. This happened more like
Oh,
decade-
the person in Indianapolis.
No, I'm talking about a book called Black Like Me, written by a white journalist who got his skin dyed, got his hair curled,
Holy
and went
crap.
and went to the deep south during the 1960s, which a lot of people don't even know about this. A lot of people don't even know this happened. This is real. You can read the book, you can watch a movie about it, and they don't make people learn about this dude because again, it points out a lot of things about America that they're trying to hide in general.
Yeah.
But this is not a made up story. This is 100% real. He did this and passed himself off as black, the black experience in the South, and it basically drove him crazy. I mean, he didn't actually get committed, but it basically pushed him to the breaking point mentally. Again, was he ethically right for doing what he did and lying to all those people? I don't think so. I think that's ethically wrong, even if the moral is empathize with black people. That's 100% fucked up. I think that's ethically wrong. But not to say again, what about Jewish people who were stuck in Germany in fucking World War II? Was it ethically wrong for them to pass as white people?
Why did a white dude need to
Huh.
don blackface to go experience the black experience when they could have just asked a black person to describe the black
But
experience.
that doesn't translate. Again, that just hearing it doesn't translate. That's also a premise where white people thinking they watched the film Precious now I understand what it's like to be black. That's not how that shit works. You can't live in. You don't know what it's like to be a dude to walk to your car at night, or be a woman to walk to your car at
Yeah.
night and be scared somebody's gonna fucking attack you. You'll never ever ever know what that shit's like in your life. I'll never ever ever know what that shit. No matter how many women tell me,
Yeah.
I'll never know what that shit is like. There's nothing that could make me ever feel that. So to pretend I know because I've heard it from a bunch of different women, that's that same bullshit that makes people think that they know about the black experience because they saw it on a fucking movie. And again, this is where it's obviously something that constantly needs to be debated and analyzed because there's obviously no finite rule about this shit.
Yeah.
Because the same person who did that shit for journalism is not the same person as the person who's doing that shit to not fucking die in the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
It's completely different reasons to do the same fucking thing. Passing for a different race, it's contextual. Sometimes it'll save your fucking life. Sometimes you gotta fucking do it. Sometimes you'll do it to write a book. Sometimes you'll do it because you're mentally unstable. All those people are not equal. And we have to look at them individually and judge them individually and not try to make hard and fast rules about shit. Because that shit is obviously not easy. Like, you can't make a hard and fast rule about that kind of shit.
No.
But there's a disposition to want to. Again, I do not blame one Jewish person who was stuck in Nazi Germany for passing for white if they could. Not fucking one. That fucking saved them from dying. Period. Nobody should ever, ever, ever question those people. Not one fucking person is in their right mind. But guess what? Some people will, because they're trying to fucking pretend to be woke and, oh, you should never compromise. Fuck out of here. Fuck the fuck out of here. And that's kind of where, again, you guys wouldn't say that shit, but there are people out there that try to have
my
these
principles are enough to save me from whatever you can do.
Exactly.
Give me your worst. I am principled. Other people should have principles too, even if it costs them their lives. Even though I'm
It's better to be righteous and dead than alive and having lied. Fuck out of here with that nonsense. Fuck all the way out of here.
Better to be righteous than dead.
Fucking whatever dude, was it Socrates or no, Galileo, who wouldn't lie to the Catholic Church? Fucking idiot. That dude's a dumbass. I'm calling Galileo a dumbass because he couldn't compromise for one fucking second. Just be like, oh yeah, no, the universe revolves around the earth. Okay, peace. I moved to a different country, y'all, because you're stupid and all I had to do was say this magic. And it's like, man, come on. You're saying, oh, I'd rather be remembered by the dude that told the Catholic Church the earth was not the center of the universe, when I could have fucking lived on and done some more scientific research. And not
he was able to continue scientific research, just only what the church allowed him to do. They kept him in a tower.
The fucking move, man. It's like, again,
He
he just didn't want to like not be in a safe place because he realized if he had moved, he would have had a more difficult life than he had living under the Catholic Empire. So he's just, I don't know, I'm gonna let history remember me as this bold man who stood up and didn't compromise even at the face of a fucking blade, because that's what noble people do. And noble people die.
Was it better to die in a tower being fed by the Catholic Church than to drink too much and
than to drink too much?
Yeah, like Tycho Brahe.
Like Tycho Brahe, yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
didn't he also had like a horse that drank too much and also died, I think.
Oh my god.
Made his horse drink to death. Like,
He also had part of his nose cut off in a duel.
yeah. And people think the scientists weren't badasses. What kind of person drinks to death and gets part of their nose cut off in a duel and kills their horse by making it drink to death? That sounds like somebody who parties really hard.
Well, he was trying to. Yeah, he partied hard and he was trying not to insult his host, and his bladder burst.
He should have just pissed his pants.
Oh my god.
What kind of idiot doesn't fucking drain the lizard when they've had too much to drink? That's like the dumbest shit.
Dark ages, man.
Uh,
These are people we're supposed to revere for being intelligent. They're like just the smartest of a bunch of fucking dressed up monkeys, is what it comes down to. All of these monkeys are wearing ruffled suits and blouses. They must be intelligent. Nope. Just a bunch of shit flinging monkeys that don't know how to control their bladders to the point where they die.
Don't bathe.
Accidentally discover some shit ever so
He
often.
had too much control over his bladder.
Arms. They wash their arms once a week.
Oh god.
I mean,
Smell.
accidentally discover some shit ever so often if you didn't have television as a distraction. We make it so, well, not we. Our educational system makes it seem like European discovery was so novel, but that shit is a lot of times accidental in the first place. And then
They didn't have anything else to do.
right, exactly. It's not like they were fucking rife with distractions. And yeah, guess what? I'll figure out some constellations if there's no pollution and I don't have a bunch of TV shows and movies to watch. Yeah, that's really easy. But yeah, I don't know. It's really weird to see. Well, because this gets back to the notion of you have a lot of people using the internet, not understanding how it works, feeling like they're technologically advanced because they're using it, but really they have the knowledge of a 5-year-old or something. I think 5-year-olds might be more knowledgeable in a lot of cases, and how things actually work. Because we grew up with the internet and we take it for granted, but everybody that's older than us did not grow up with the internet. So that technology is as novel to them as quantum computers were to our generation. As far as having to learn new concepts, which is why they don't end up learning them. So the internet might as well be fucking magic fairies flying messages back and forth to people who are older than us. And again, that's because they never felt compelled to learn how the internet works. And now they think the cloud is an actual cloud.
The cloud.
Yeah. In their minds, it's an actual cloud that stores information.
It's really
it's an abstract cloud.
It has more,
and not just other computers.
Yeah, it has more in common with a giant block of silicon and gold. and some glass and other metals.
Yeah. I mean, but they don't understand how that shit works either. They don't understand how electricity works. They don't understand how fucking airflow works. They don't understand how anything works because they don't have to. And that's when you're given the option and capacity to live without actually having to learn how anything works, it becomes this illusion of modernity, an illusion of technological advancement that is actually coming from using those things but not understanding how they work. And you know, I keep coming back to this We've Never Been Modern framing by Bruno Latour, but it's just because we keep dealing with the same problems over and over. But it's because when new technology emerges, those same cycles reemerge at the same time. And push people back into old like it keeps people in old paradigms. In the same way, you know, the printing press and how newspaper and magazines have been used is the exact same way that our parents and grandparents use Facebook and the internet. It's just gossip. It's just gossip to them. It's not anything actually useful because they don't understand how point of sale systems works. They don't understand how inventory systems work because they never had to learn. They don't understand that the entire economy runs off the internet now because everything is connected on the back end. They didn't have to learn that. So to them, the internet is just where you go to look at Facebook and porn, which is also why, you know, they have to call on somebody our age to come fucking convert a PDF for them before they send it out to their employees.
We are getting to the, well, actually, I turned 40 recently. And so I think we're at the age where our generation's children are actually the ones who have to go fix things. So, some of them, you know, some of the people started, reproducing early, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's the case because our generation's children are not.
'cause I remember having to like fix my
They're
grandma's.
they're like just getting to working age, but to actually fix things, you have to go through so much hoop jumping that
Yeah,
you
but
can't be that person until you're like in your mid 20s,
yeah, but there were
at
people.
least.
I mean, I was always ended up having to fix somebody's computer when I was a teenager, even.
Yeah, but you're not working for a service doing that. You're doing that for your parents' friends.
Oh, I
I'm
know.
saying
That's what I mean. It's like
when
somebody would be like, "Hey, can you go over and fix this?"
like I fix people our age's stuff. The people who are our age that need stuff fixed never bothered to learn about smart devices.
Mm.
So every time somebody needs a smart thermostat or something installed, they call me. Even if, and it's like, man, I want to tell them most of the time, like, hey, dude, you're my age. You should not need me to install this for you. This is fucked up, and I can't do that because it would be some truth that they can't handle because a lot of them are soft and they can't handle when people tell them harsh truths. But at the same time, they then feel like, oh, I can pay this guy to do this, so I don't need to learn it. And that's where I'm like, well, I'll just take your money and do something that's going to take me fucking, 30 minutes, and you're going to pay me $50 for half an hour because you couldn't be bothered to fucking learn that shit. And that's where I'm like, I don't have any problem taking those people's money because at the end of the day, they think that they're better than me because I'm the one fixing this shit, and they're the one that's, even though they're not able, they can just pay somebody to fix it. So this justification of not learning that skill, which again, I'll exploit that shit. I don't give a fuck. I'll take their money, but you know, not during a pandemic. I was not doing that shit.
No, I remember you sent me a link at one point to like it was like basically like, what is the model, Lyft, but for doing electronics installation. And I thought about it, and then I think pandemic happened. And so like all these gig economy things, man, they just kind of became extra dangerous.
Yeah, they had even shut it down for months.
Yeah.
And they kept sending me shit in Kentucky and Indianapolis. I'm like, I'm not fucking going there. Are you crazy? Because then they would try to up the pay, and I don't care how much you pay. I'm not doing that shit. Yeah, because they must have had a hard time finding people willing to do that shit in the last few months or during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, if you can't find a Tyvek suit and a full face respirator and a like body pack circulator and a supply of filters so that you can like cycle them. Uh, that's just it. Nobody knew what was going on during the early stages of the pandemic. And is it really worth it to be the test subject? Does anyone really want to be the test subject when there's no fucking actual cure? There's some loose treatments in sight that might work, and here we are. Like, I mean, we're past the year point from when they announced it. It's been going on for a year, probably longer. Apparently, there's Reuters. I think had an article, or maybe it was, yeah, I think it was Reuters. They were talking about how there's the signs are that it was circulating in like Italy as far back as September. Like Spain had it back in September. Apparently, there's all these studies that are like producing data that show that there were people with these conditions that just didn't know what it was.
Again, remember when they were trying to say it was happening from people vaping, and suddenly that vaping shit's gone.
Yep.
So yeah, they're fucking lying. They're fucking lying their asses off. Yet again. So it's like magically people stop vaping and they stop getting popcorn lung while COVID hit. Huh. Weird. Weird how that timing worked. Huh. Because then people forget that push to blame vaping was right before COVID hit. It was the month and 2 months before COVID hit.
Yeah.
It wasn't 20. It wasn't 2018. It was late 2019.
Yeah.
And it was so inconsistent. They were trying to say, oh, it's the vitamin E acetate. No, it wasn't that. It was something else. They're contaminated black market. Don't use the black market vapes. Watch out for these specific black market vapes. And they were trying to find some common denominator, and there wasn't one among the vapes. And then COVID hit magically. But yeah, I remember getting sick around December last year, but it wasn't lung, respiratory, or anything. It was kind of like a flu. I don't think it was COVID, but
Well, I remember around this time of year last year, I had like the worst sinus infection of my life. Like I had like the thickest snot that I've ever had, and it didn't want to come out, no matter what I did. And finally, I decided to rinse it all out with like neti pot, and the stuff that came out was like, like almost like cement. It barely had any flow to it. I probably could have pulled it out, but I don't think that I had COVID. I think I just had like some really bad allergy shit going on, but I don't know because I haven't been tested, and I don't have any desire to go get tested anytime soon. I'm just gonna wait for the vaccine. We're all in a queue somewhere. We're all gonna get it by the end of the year, apparently.
I don't think so. I think they said it was going to be years before. It was like at least 3 years, if not 5.
Oh,
to
I mean,
vaccinated by the time it rolls out
if
at this pace.
if Biden is able to accomplish his goal of 100 million people in 100 days, then they'll be on track to get the entire population.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah,
That's
I know, man. Wishful thinking, though. Wishful thinking.
That's not happening. Like we just need to act like we need to get that out of our heads now. That's just not happening.
No.
Like Biden saying that before he's in office is irresponsible. Like that's just straight irresponsible.
Yeah.
That shit is not happening. 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, we were supposed to have 100 million people vaccinated by the start of the new year, apparently, but and apparently the military was ready to deploy and vaccinate people, and all the other promises that never materialized.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll have
numbers are now.
The vaccinations are going to start before the election. I mean, that never happened.
And somebody deliberately sabotaged vaccinations.
Oh yeah, they didn't re-chill it.
They took it out and left it out for 2 nights deliberately, and then they also administered it to people, 57 people.
They were trying to sow sentiment that the vaccine didn't work. That's what they were actively doing.
Oh wow, that's fucking like biological terrorism.
Yeah. Well, apparently only 2 points Americans have been vaccinated as of 3 days ago.
Yeah.
They're saying New York Times reported 4.2 million, but either one is under 10 million. Oh, the New York Times one was updated yesterday, so that may have been Yeah, no, the federal goal by this December is 20 million, not 100 million. Biden saying 100 million is just flat out irresponsible. That's just flat out irresponsible because if the overstretched medical system, the healthcare system is like, this isn't Trump saying 20 million. This is the people who are in charge of all of the facilities coming up with these numbers. That's what they think they can do. Biden has no fucking business bumping that up by 5. He has no fucking business doing that.
Yeah.
And it's irresponsible, and it's that fucking team bullshit to think, oh, because I'm a Democrat, I can come in and do something 5 times better than what this Republican is doing just because I'm blue. Like, it's the same fucking healthcare system. It's not like magically when Biden comes in office, our healthcare system's gonna like change. It's not gonna. It's gonna be the same fucking healthcare system.
ACA is going to transform into the Voltron of healthcare systems.
Right. That's what I think in some Democrats' heads. That's how shit. Oh, as soon as Biden steps in office, the fucking power comes on.
Get ready to
Fucking
form Voltron, guys. We're going to tackle this problem head on. God.
It's some fantasy shit, man. It's some real weird fantasy shit.
Because you know that the healthcare system works better under Democrats.
You mean the Biden that was against $2,000 payments, and the Kamala Harris that were against increasing the $2,000? That those are the people that are gonna
Apparently.
change the healthcare system overnight.
Apparently.
Yeah, no, I'm more determined in 2021 to hold government accountable than ever. In that, again, I'm not, fool me once, because the Democrats let up off of Barack Obama when he came into office, and now the ACA is basically repealed for the most part. Any of the good parts are no longer in place. So there's this element of the people who do the political strategy for long-term strategy on the left have a problem kowtowing to media pressure from the right wing. And this is where the left, the actual left, has to be more adamant than ever about putting pressure on social justice. Like, social justice should not be a fucking bad word. The social justice warrior should not be a fucking slur. People should not be, oh, I'm not an SJW. Fuck out of here, you being afraid of being called an SJW. Fuck out of here. I don't want you in this revolution anyway. Anybody who is afraid of being labeled a social justice warrior by the right wing was never about social justice in the first place. So social justice needs to not be a fucking bad word in 2021 if we're actually going to get any justice. And this comes saying that has to be pushed on Joe Biden. This is not being directed towards Republicans. All that same fire and vitriol that the people who were trying to make everybody feel bad if they weren't excited about Joe Biden, those same people need to take that energy and fucking point it towards Joe Biden. Because if I see one of them motherfuckers letting up, and act, oh no, he's in office now, we just need to let him do what he needs to do. Nah, they're getting flamed. They are enemies of progress. They are the reason that shit never gets done, because when their fucking team member gets in office, they tell everybody to fucking let up off of them and let them just do their shit. And then fucking big pharma or big oil or big meat comes in and buys that fucking whoever fuck it is and just subverts anything that's going to help the actual people. It don't matter if it's Obama. It don't matter if it's Trump. It don't matter if it's Biden. Every single one of them motherfuckers is subject to being bought and turned against the American people.
And Big
that's how
Meat
that
is a
always
great name for a boss. Like, we could make a computer game called The
Big Meat.
Industrialist, and the point of the Industrialist is to uh, arrange revenue streams and acquire capital so you can start your own industry. But you have to take on the bosses like Big Meat and Big Metal and Big Pharma and Big Agri. Yeah.
It wouldn't be so dystopian if it were.
It'd be a steampunk game because this takes place during the American Revolution. So it's a steampunk game. It can still have like really cool like weaponry sorts. They would have ray guns, like tube and steam powered ray guns, and the cars would be pretty cool, but they wouldn't be very fast. No, Big Meat's a great name for a villain. Big Meat's boss music would be like really choppy, uh, like seizure-inducing strobe lights. Big Meat would be like the Penguin.
It would be like long sausage links like spinning around like Super Mario fireball things on the boss levels.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the heads of industry in this country are caricature villainesque. They're villanesque caricatures of what industry leaders should be.
Yeah.
They're super villains without powers.
Well, their power is to undermine the health and safety of their workers and also the supply chain that they generate their revenue stream from. That's their power. They could inflict a lot of social disorder just by disrupting their supply chains. It would hurt them, but
Yeah, and that's another.
fucking
I'm
meat
wondering.
shortage, man. That would drive. I think that would drive every community off the walls. They'd be going crazy.
In America, yeah. Oh fuck yeah. Hell yeah. That's one of the things that defines Americans. I eat hamburger every day. At least one hamburger, maybe two.
I enjoy
Maybe
a
two.
good burger from time to time, but like I don't even consider like the difference between the burger that I can make for myself versus like the burger that I get from like fast food place or even a sit down restaurant. Like I can make a sit down restaurant burger. I don't want to make a fast food restaurant burger. I can probably
Just
make it.
add some butter and salt. That's what they do. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can do that stuff myself. I can buy seasoning salt and meat tenderizer if I really need to. If I really want to remake that. Get, fuck, I keep wanting to say gas station burger.
Ooh, those are real bad.
Well, they all give you gas. They all fill up the tank.
Was it weak beef energy?
Weak beef energy.
Docile beef energy.
Docile beef energy.
Get out of here with that docile beef energy.
Oh man.
Yeah, that one definitely applies. But I think again, where are we gonna how do you convince people to empower themselves when they don't want to? I think that's again.
Well, those.
Do we worry about people that don't want to empower themselves? Is
Look,
that a waste
I think
of
that
energy?
people who don't have any desire to do anything or learn even, they should be fine and have zero complaints with whatever UBI is imposed when automation is fully realized and industry is completely roboticized and there are no people doing any of those things anymore and those jobs completely disappear. So the only thing they can do is, you know, have a job as a God, what's going to exist? A cleaner? You might be able to be a specialist cleaner who only cleans a certain type of thing that requires human hands, or you're going to have to be like highly educated. You're going to have to go through some academic process and get a degree, and so you can gain entry into different higher levels of industry. But even then, eventually those jobs will be replaced because database automation is probably, you know, precedent to machine automation. So who knows? I don't think that any. I think if people aren't willing to keep up at the very least and retrain and find new jobs within an evolving system, then what's left? Well, I don't want to call it welfare because UBI sounds a lot better. And UBI is, you know, fundamentally different. But not, I think a lot of people still see it as a form of welfare because, I don't know, they don't understand economics. They don't understand the way that these things all work together. How do we even get all these things to work together all at the same time when there are people who are completely unwilling to even give it a try?
You know, I think that comes back to everybody's not going to follow Yoda's advice.
Yeah.
And there is do and there is try. When Yoda's like, there is no do or there is no try, there's only do. It's like, well, no, there's actually both. Sounds cool in a movie, but because then you see some people not only can't even do, they can't try.
Well, there are three versions. There's Yoda's version, there's Luke's version, and then there's like what actually happens, right? It's not just what one of them sees. Yoda's not actually omniscient.
Right.
So
Jedi were sneaky little fucks lying a lot.
yeah, you know, that's one of those things that they never really acknowledged. The Jedi Order, they were like the cudgel of the Republic.
Yep.
They were assassins. They pretended to be peacekeepers, but you know, when you watch the movies or you watch Clone Wars, or they go in and kill people, like left and right. We can acknowledge that.
Exceptional Radio.
Exceptional Randos Show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.